Yeah, it is. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihati. Also Teta Satashi Shibad, His Divine Grace Savaya, Chantana Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Say Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Ravana Chinanda Shitway to get out, she was at the old Bhaktivan Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Go Pukla Sayam Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Kijai, Vrindavam Kijai, Maturam Kijai, Sami Kijai, Yamunamai Kijai, Shimari Galasi Devi Kijai, Samveda Bhakta, Vrindavan Kijai. Gaur Premananda Harinam. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So where should we read from the Bhagavatam?
Wow.
I mean, someone pick.
We are doing which chapter nowadays?
We got the 11th canto here, and then you have the 3rd canto, so I'm trying to figure out.
We are reading second chapter of Gita nowadays, Maharaj.
2nd chapter of the Gita. Well, this is neither of these is the Gita. So we should have Bhagavatam class, though.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Anyone?
All right, so we'll read from the 3rd canto. I'd like to welcome all these devotees for joining us. Guy, John, Raja, Vanita, Madan Mohan. Nitya Kishore is watching us.
Oh.
She must be back in town by now.
Yes, today she came.
She came right early this morning?
It looks like it.
Yeah. Dhananjaya, Amit, Mayapur, Chandra, Leela Shakti, Rasheshwari, Mukunda Rao.
Wow.
Well, a lot of people watching. And, of course, we're in Sacramento, California. Soon to be, what, the 51st state of the United States? They're breaking up California. Is that right?
They want to break it.
They're voting on it, or?
It is on the ballot this time.
So you're going to be the 51st or 52nd
I will want to
state?
break it apart.
Okay, so let's see. Let's read. Okay, here's actually an interesting thing. That's so, let me just pick a verse. There's a verse I want here in this particular part of the Bhagavatam. We'll read from Devahuti's prayers. Here. Okay. That's what I was looking for. The 3rd canto, 25th chapter, text 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 And I'd like to welcome Makan Shore, my brother Thief. He's watching too. Wow. A lot of devotees watching. Okay, so text 7. Of course, you don't have it there, so I'll just have to read it a few times. Devahuti Ruvacha Nirvina Nitaram Bhuman Asadindriya Tarshanat Yena Sambhavyamanena Prapanandam Atatama Prabho Devahuti Ruvacha Nirvina Nitaram Bhuman Asadindriya Tarshanat Yena Sambhavyamanena Prapanandam Tama Prabho Devahuti Ruvacha Nirvina Nitaram Bhuman Asadindriya Tarshanat Yena Sambhavyamanena Prapanandam Tama Prabho. So you can repeat. Devahuti Uvacha.
Devahuti Uvacha.
Devahuti said.
Devahuti said.
Nirvana.
Nirvana.
Disgusted.
Disgusted.
Nitaram.
Nitaram.
Very.
Very.
Bhuman.
Bhuman.
O my Lord.
O my Lord.
Asat.
Asat.
Impermanent.
Impermanent.
Indriha.
Indriya.
Of the senses.
Of the senses.
Karshanat.
Darshanat.
From agitation.
From meditation.
Yena.
Yena.
By which.
By which.
Sambhavyamanena.
Bhagavanena.
Being prevalent.
Being prevalent.
Prapana.
Prapana.
I have fallen.
I have fallen.
Anda tamaha.
Andhatama.
into the abyss of ignorance.
into the abyss of ignorance.
Bravo, oh my Lord.
O my Lord.
So the translation is, Devotee said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. Everyone knows what an abyss is? It's a big, dark, endless pit. It's not just an ordinary pit, it's a pit that has no ends. It's actually quite an interesting word. So, we'll read Srila Prabhupada's purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here the word asat indriya tarshanat is significant. Asat means impermanent, temporary, and indriya means senses. Thus, asat indriya tarshanat means from being agitated by the temporarily manifest senses of the material body. We are evolving through different statuses of material bodily existence, sometimes in a human body, sometimes in an animal body, and therefore the engagements of our material senses are also changing. Anything which changes is called temporary or asat. We should know that beyond these temporary senses are permanent senses which are now covered by the material body. The permanent senses, being contaminated by matter, are not acting properly. Devotional service therefore involves freeing the senses from this contamination. When the contamination is completely removed and the senses act in the purity of unalloyed Krishna consciousness, we have reached Sat Indriya, or eternal sensory activities. Eternal sensory activities are called devotional service, whereas temporary sensory activities are called sense gratification. Unless one becomes tired of material sense gratification, there is no opportunity to hear transcendental messages from a person like Kapila. Devotee expressed that she was tired. Now that her husband had left home, she wanted to get relief by hearing the instructions of Lord Kapila. So, anyway, no picture of Prabhupada here. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shagananjana Shakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, of course, this is a very interesting verse. It is spoken as part of the story of Devahuti and Kapila Dev and Kardama Muni. So, Kardama Muni, let's talk a little bit about the story. Kardama Muni was a Muni, a sage. And that means he was a Brahmin, right? And his wife, Devahuti, was what?
King's daughter.
King's daughter. She was Kshatriya. So that's called the Pratiloma marriage. Pratiloma marriage means where a man, actually it's not Pratiloma, it's Anuloma, sorry. Pratiloma, Anuloma marriage means where a man of a higher caste marries a woman of a lower caste. And that Anuloma is okay. That's okay. And then the opposite of that is Pratiloma, where a man of a lower caste marries a woman of a higher caste. And that's trouble. Why is it trouble? Let's say a Kshatriya man, and Kshatriyas, they like to do what? You know?
Most people around.
Not fight so much. They like to control. They like more and more wealth, because they are in the mode of what? Passion. So someone in the mode of passion, according to Krishna and the Gita, wants more and more and more, right? Someone in the mode of ignorance just wants to sleep all day.
Control like
Procrastinate. But someone in the mode of passion likes to control, right? And someone in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, that's a Vaishya, they just like money, 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 and wealth, and a lot of jewelry, and stuff like that. So, anyway, the problem with the Pratiloma marriage, where a man from a lower caste marries a woman of a higher caste, is that she's actually more intelligent than him. And that's a problem. And she's more in the mode, towards the mode of goodness. Let's say a woman in the mode of goodness is a Brahmani. A lady who is in the mode of goodness is Brahmani. And the man in the mode of passion is Kshatriya. And so he just wants more and more, and she's saying peace and love and everything like that. She's saying be peaceful, calm down. He can't. It doesn't work like that. So, but in this case, this is where you have a Brahmin marry Kshatriya, which is all right. But for the lady, it's still a little hard because a Kshatriya lady is accustomed to opulence, right?
Yes.
Whereas a Brahmin lady is accustomed and just automatically gravitates towards austerity, chanting rounds, whereas a Kshatriya lady really wants to have jewelry, a soft bed. You remember the story of the princess and the pig?
Yeah.
It's like a Kshatriya
7
lady.
mastresses.
So that's a Kshatriya lady. So she marries this Brahmin, this Kardama Muni, and he's really austere. This is the Bhagavatam story. And being really austere, she has to follow in his footsteps. Because that's the standard in the Vedic culture, that the wife would follow in the footsteps of the husband. Be chaste to the husband. Even you have such famous ladies as Mandodari. Who's Mandodari? Ravana's wife. And she had to just serve her husband. That's torture, serving Ravana. So she had to serve Ravana, and of course she did give Ravana instructions. It's not that a wife in the Vedic system is just keeps her mouth shut. But Mandodari kept telling Ravana what? Let Sita go. Give her back. Everything's going to be destroyed. So Mandodari was a chaste lady, and actually, even when we do Vedic marriage sacrifices, we chant her name. Did you know that? Because you chant the name of different chaste ladies of couples. You say Mandodari Ravana, Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, Radha Krishna, because they weren't even married. But still, because the chastity of a lady is held in very high esteem. In fact, there's that story that when a lady one time was able to stop the rising of the sun, you know that story? Yeah. Yes? No?
Oh, yes.
And that's in the Markandeya Purana, where this lady was married to a leprous man with leprosy. And this man touched Markandeya Rishi. And Markandeya Rishi cursed the man to die before the rising of the sun. The next day she said the sun's not going to die. I had to rise. And she stopped the sun from rising. Pretty good, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you do that?
I wish I could, then I could sleep today.
No, you're not a chaste lady. But Ranjani, she can chat. Stop the sun from rising. So you better be careful with her. Don't offend her. Because if you offend a chaste lady, guess what happens? Everything's finished. Materially, spiritually. If you offend a chaste lady, so be careful, Aniruddha. Don't do it. Because I don't want to visit you in Yamaraj's planet. So anyway, so getting back to the point, this Devahuti was very chaste to Kardama Muni, and even though she was a queen before, when Kardama Muni was executing his austerities, she just followed in his footsteps. And as described, she became very thin because she wasn't eating that much. And then even soiled her body. She didn't have new saris and everything like that. That's very hard for a Kshatriya lady. Kshatriya lady needs new saris every day, practically speaking. It's interesting. Actually, when there's marriages, it has to be a new sari, isn't it? You can't wear the same sari to 10 marriages. Did you know that? But you can wear the same dhoti to 10 marriages. So anyway, so she had to follow in his footsteps. Her body became very soiled, and he became very compassionate to her. And what did he do? He created a what? Do you know the story, Aniruddha?
What did Kardama Muni create?
He created a flying airplane. It was like a whole city. It had servants on it, with waterfalls and palaces. That's good. Just for her. and she had maidservants and everything like that. She had maidservants serving her, and then she regained her health. She had nice saris and everything like that after that. And, whoops, it is closed, isn't it?
It is?
It is.
It is.
It seems like it's not sealed, Maharaj.
We need the white danda.
It's all right.
It's better.
It's all right. It's better.
He's going.
So anyway, so she had this airplane, and she became very happy. And as a Kshatriya, she was very enthusiastic too. So they had some children. But the children were all daughters. That's good. Nothing wrong with daughters. But in the Vedic system, if someone has a bunch of daughters, they can't take sannyas. Why?
Because there's no one to take care of the family.
That's right. There's no one to take. He knows. There's no one to take care of the family. Daughters are nice too. Daughters are called putri, and sons are called putra. Putri means what, Aniruddha?
Daughter.
No.
Oh, one who takes the parents to
One who saved the parents from what?
hell.
That's good. So you're going to save your parents from hell? What?
Another put three.
Your putra.
Putri saves from hell, Maharaj.
Yeah,
Save
yeah.
my parents
Prabhupada
from
said
heaven.
putri or putra.
Both.
Both.
I'll
Prabhupada
save
said
my
both.
parents from heaven.
Although ordinarily you have the putra to the pinta ceremony, but in the case there's no putra, they can be putri. Prabhupada said that. And of course, if one is executing devotional service, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to do pinta. You're saving so many generations of your family, right? You know that? By being a devotee, you're saving not only your father and mother from hell, but who else are you saving?
27 generations before.
That's right. You're saving your grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-grandparents, your uncles or aunties, who else?
27 generations ahead.
And your wife. From hell. So anyway, so that's that's devotional service. But still, the man needs to have a son before he can take sannyas. That's the Vedic system. So therefore, after having the 9 daughters, they had one son, and his name was what? Kapila Dev. Kapila Dev. And Lord Kapila Dev. Anyway, the father, Kadamba Muni, took sannyas immediately. And then the mother was left with Lord Kapila Dev. And then Lord Kapila Dev was getting ready to take sannyas. And his mother said, "Help! Help me become a devotee." And she was, as described here, Nibina Nitaram Bhuman Asadindriya Tarshana. She was sick of the disturbances caused by the senses. Because when you're young, you don't really understand the disturbances caused by the senses. You think, these senses are nice, I can eat a lot and enjoy life and play and everything like that. But when you get older, you have to have operations and everything like that, like recently we experienced. I was in the hospital. I've never been in the hospital my whole life, except for when I was young, I had tonsillectomy. Tonsils taken out. But it was just, oh my God. I'm lying there and they're going to cut me. My body that I love. They're going to cut me and make holes in me. And so then, then they give me the, you know what the IV is? Okay. So anyway, they give me anesthesia. You know what anesthesia is?
Yes.
And they give me anesthesia and lying there, go unconscious. They take me into the operating room. I come out. I'm sick, because in this particular operation, they pump you full of carbon dioxide. I'm sure that Sudharma knows about this. And then you're sick, and then you can't stand up. Oh my God, the body that I'm so attached to is causing so much trouble now. I thought it was going to live forever. You know the most wonderful thing that there is? when Yudhisthira Maharaj had a discussion with Yamaraj. Does anyone remember the story? Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti Himalayam. Most wonderful thing is we see everybody die. But what do we think? Not me. Not me. And actually, even when we went to the before the operating room, they said, do you have a will? Do you have someone who's going to make decisions if you die? Basically, they didn't say in those words, but they said, isn't it? We got an operation. They said, but I don't die. I'm eternal. I'm a soul. Anyway, so it was a wake-up call. You know, a wake-up call, like an alarm clock going off when these difficulties happen. And so that's what's happening with Devahuti. I mean, she saw her husband go away. She was getting older. And, you know, when she was young, she and her husband were enjoying themselves. But after a while, it gets a little dry. It's like chewing gum that you chewed all the sugar out of. Did you ever chew gum? Once. Well, he's really pure devotee here. You know? But when I was young, we used to chew bubble gum. You know bubble gum? I'm sure you have that in Fiji too, right? And then after a while, it just becomes, there's no more taste because all the sugar goes out. You're just like chewing rubber after a while. So that's very similar to a story that we've just been reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam about, in the 9th canto, about King Yayati. King Yayati is an interesting story. He was enjoying life with his wife, Devyani. I'm not going to tell the whole story. But what happened is that he aggravated Devyani's father. And Devyani's father turned him into an old man immediately. An old man can't enjoy. Did you know that? As much as young men. Just like when I was young, I would eat so much pizza and everything like that. And now all I can eat is quinoa. So what happened is he got cursed. Devyani's father's name was Ashukracharya. Cursed him to become an old man. So all of a sudden, old man. So what he did, he was really frustrated because he had aggravated his wife. And so when he went to Shukracharya, his wife's father, who happened to be a great mystic yogi, and he said to him, please, I want to become young again. And Shukracharya said, you can become young again, but you have to find someone who will give you their youth in exchange for your old age. So he went to his sons, and he said to his sons, who's going to do it for me? Right, different sons like Yadu and others. And some of the sons said, no, Dad. And would you give your father your youth for his old age? No. No, you're not a good father. You're a good son. You're like Mutra instead of Putra. You know what Mutra means? It means like a son of urine, you know. You won't give your father your youth? Anyway, so one son, Purut, did give his father the youth. And he became young again, and then he started to enjoy Haribo, Guranga. He started to enjoy with his wife. Actually, he had several wives. He was a Kshatriya. And then after a while, he said, ooh, I'm disgusted with this. He said, it's just like a goat. And he told his wife a story. He says, we're just like two goats, dear. Trying to enjoy this material world. And she understood, he understood. And it took a long time to get disgusted. Actually, it took like many years to get disgusted. Because the problem with sense gratification is when you engage in it, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire, petrol on a fire. It doesn't put it out. Temporarily, it seems to put it out. You know, if you put a whole lot, like for tenth of a second, it seems all right. But after a while, it just flames up again. So it's very hard to get disgusted with sense gratification because one always has hope that maybe in the future I'll meet that perfect person. Maybe in the future, the doctors will come up with some cure for all the diseases and I will live forever. Maybe in the future I can live in my computer forever. And I'll have a bionic body. You know what a bionic body is?
Yeah.
Just like part of my body now is bionic. It's no longer flesh. I have a net in my body. I have plastic in my eyes. Right? So we're thinking, oh, in the future, then they'll be able to replace my ears, my nose, my heart, my brain, and I'll be bionic. Isn't that nice? Live forever. But, this is hope against hope. So at a certain point, when one becomes completely frustrated with sense gratification, then one has to take advantage of that situation. If one doesn't take advantage immediately, then the disgust with the sense gratification goes away. And then you start to think, well, maybe I just didn't do everything right. I have to make some adjustment. So here, Devahuti is imploring, that is begging, her son, Lord Kapilade, to instruct her in devotional service. I'm sick of the disturbances caused by the senses. Please become my guru. Prapanandam Adam Tama Prabhu. Prabhu means master. You understand? Just like we have the masculine is master, Pravi is the feminine. So the ladies should all be called Pravi, and the men can be called Prabhus. You understand? Instead of calling the ladies Mataji, they should call them Pravi. That means master. So the Prabhupada said everybody should call each other master. At least all the devotees should call each other master. So she's approaching her son in this very humble way. Do you see the picture of them on the cover here? Her son is sitting on the Vyasasana and she's sitting below him. No, normally the mother is considered like the natural guru, and the father is considered the natural guru. And the son touches the feet of the parents. You do that? No. You don't call your mother Matashri, Pitashri? No. I'm embarrassed. They're your natural gurus, like your mother is your teacher, right?
Sometimes once in a year they are forced to do that. That's all.
They're forced.
When there's birthday or something.
You take a gun or something. So naturally, they're your teachers. But in this case, she's realizing the superior position of her son, who happens to be an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and taking shelter of him. Therefore, the statement is Acharyaman Anavamanyat Karahichet Namarchabudhyasuyata Sarvadeva Maya Guru, that the pure devotee is not to be considered in terms of bodily distinctions. If one considers the pure devotee in terms of bodily distinctions, that's like considering the deity to be made of stone. You understand? It's called hellish intelligence, hellish consciousness. So one should see things from the spiritual perspective, and if the son is more advanced than the mother, then the son can give spiritual instructions to the mother. But you're not, don't worry, it's not particularly the case right now. So this is, anyway, this is what's happening. She's disgusted with the material entanglement. She's approaching her son, and this major portion of this canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is dedicated to the instructions of Lord Kapila Dev. He instructs her about the material world. He instructs her about the different varieties of devotional service in different modes of nature, which is quite interesting. He tells her there's devotees in the mode of passion, goodness, and ignorance, and transcendental devotional service. So it's a very interesting discussion. So, any questions or comments?
Gurudev,
Yeah.
You explain about the pinda. So
Pinda.
in devotee, the devotee passes away.
If a devotee passes away,
Is necessary.
well, this is an interesting question. Actually, all we have to do is chant Hare Krishna. Technically, spiritually, all we have to do is chant Hare Krishna, and that's it. We don't have to do all these formularies. I mean, I know in Fiji they have this stupid ceremony where they, I'm saying stupid, where they put whatever someone likes out for them, isn't it? Even if it happens to be cigarettes and fish, right? You know, they think we'll worship the forefathers and we'll put cigarettes out, a plate of cigarettes out, you know, whatever, you know, a fish, whatever he liked when he was alive. Kava. But the reason he's in hell is because he took those things. And you're giving him more of those things. You don't know about Fiji art, but that's what they do in Fiji. It's crazy.
When he died, he gave more.
Yeah, he died and went to hell, so you're keeping him in hell longer. By giving him. But actually what happens is you put a plate out, the guy doesn't take it, you know, a dog comes around and eats from the plate later on. That's Fiji. It's a Fiji version of Pinda. And then of course they have these Pitrapoks. You heard about that before? Which is like 2 weeks when you're not supposed to worship Krishna, you're not supposed to do anything except for worship, you know, do this Pinda ceremony. That's one thing. Which is anyway. So the point is there are bona fide methods of Pinda that are mentioned in the Shastras, but it's not putting cigarettes and fish out in a plate. That's not bona fide. That usually on the it's not done during the 2 week period. It's done during the anniversary of someone's passing away. And then there's all sorts of ceremonies. You feed the brahmanas, you feed the best of the brahmanas. I mean, it's the whole ceremony that's done. Now, the question is whether we should do those things in the Krishna consciousness movement. And my answer is, depends on where you are. If you're someplace where people expect you to do it, you know, it's the culture, then you should do it. Because otherwise people will disrespect the Krishna conscious devotees and the movement. They will think, oh, you're a bunch of milechas. Like if I'm in Fiji, I won't tell the devotees not to do Pinda, because that's the culture. And if we don't do it, then we look like, you know, we're outcasts, basically speaking. So we do that, but we chant Hare Krishna. So sometimes you have to do some cultural things just so the people respect you. Like Prabhupada, when he installed the deities in Vrindavan, he had ritualistic brahmanas come and do all the mantras and everything like that. But Prabhupada basically explained it was the Harinam Kirtan that installed the deities. So you really need to fit in with the culture. You don't want to appear to be like crazy. I mean, you know, just like another point is that when we're preaching in the Western world, of course we don't do things that they do. You know, we don't eat meat just to fit in the culture. But sometimes, you know, we may wear Western clothes, you know, to make people comfortable. Or we may shake people's hands, even though traditionally you don't shake people's hands, you know. Can you imagine? Like you're in business and someone says, how do you do, Mr. Whatever you are? He says, you're a malecha. Even if I see your face, I'm supposed to go bathing in the Ganges without changing my clothes. You won't hold your job for very long. You do that, right? So you got to fit in with the culture. You shake hands. Because now in India they shake hands too. But anyway, India's becoming westernized. Like that. You know, you fit in with the culture up to a certain extent. You don't give up your regulated principles to fit in with the culture. But, you know, you got to, you know, sometimes you go to people, or preaching people, you go to high five, you know. Just the people can relate to us.
Just like in America they what's it called? They put in a pavan, the body in the pavan, so they cremate the body.
That's fine.
So there's not much ritualistic ceremony you can perform.
Yeah.
So
you can do the same thing, basically.
Just chant Hare Krishna and
No. You put the tulsi leaves and branches around the body. You do the same exact thing. I've been at many funerals. They do the same exact thing. You know, they circumambulate the body. They chant Hare Krishna, and then the son actually pushes the button. You know, it's not that same thing where he just takes a torch and lights the body, but he pushes the button. I mean, I've been to many funerals. You know, Krishna conscious funerals, and that's, you know, of course in India it's a different thing. In India, you actually have the funeral pyre, you go around it, and there's a whole ceremony like that. The main thing is chanting Hare Krishna.
That covers everything.
Everything else is just like icing on the cake, so to speak. But Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna is the cake. That takes care of everything. Even if you're doing deity worship and you don't remember all the mantras, if you just chant Hare Krishna, everything's contained within the holy names. So you don't have to get into all these different rituals. Of course, to please people, if you're in a ritualistic culture, you follow their rituals. That's all. But you add Hare Krishna. So, any other questions?
You were saying about Vaishya, this thing, that...
Vaishya wants more and more and more and more wealth.
So
That's
the
Bhagavad Gita
difference-
said.
So the Kshatriya is controlling and the Vaishya is more greedy.
Vaishya is more greedy than Kshatriya, yeah.
But he has also the passion and ignorance.
Passion and ignorance, yeah.
So that passion
But
ignorance-
Kshatriya is controlling, but he's not just absolutely greedy. He wants more, he's attached to opulence. But he's more dharmic than the Vaishya. He's much more dharmic. He wants opulence that's dharmic. You understand? In other words, let's say the Kshatriya, he'll be interested in more and more opulence for the deity too. But he's not interested so much as the Vaishyas in gross sense gratification. Because as you get more and more into the mode of ignorance, you get more and more into gross sense gratification. But a Vaishya is also thinking about the future. Kshatriya is thinking about the future. Brahman is thinking about the future. Whereas a Shudra doesn't think about the future. Shudra is just be here now, right now, whatever enjoyment, that doesn't matter. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. He doesn't care. He doesn't care, even for his health. Like you see, so many people, they're drinking. And it's so amazing that even in Indian culture, now there's so much drinking, alcoholism. It just shocks me. I mean, even in Fiji, that I have some disciples who are older and their children are just drinking and getting drunk in front of them, living in the same house. And getting drunk, and there's no respect for the parents. And then they have to, in many cases, they have to set up a separate meat kitchen for their kids in the garage. You've heard about this before?
So they can't get
Fiji
rid
is very common, isn't it? And then, the respect for the parents is no longer there. According to Krishna, that's actually one of the austerities of the body. We had this devotee in Fiji, and you remember, and he was living. The kids took over the house and they just put him in a little box, basically next to the house. You remember that? And he was dying, He passed away, but anyway, and he was a good devotee and everything like that. So you see the mistreatment of the parents is becoming more and more prominent, and the taking of alcohol. I mean, it's just, how could people drink alcohol? Just I don't even understand it. I mean, if you look at any, even Hindi movie, I mean, let's say Ramayana or Mahabharata or something like that, the demons they're drinking, isn't it? Like I was just watching the Hanuman series, a nice Hanuman series on TV, not TV, the internet, and Hanuman goes into Ravana's abode to look for Sita Devi, and everyone's just drunk, and so now people are following that, isn't it? You never see Ram drinking. Isn't it? Do you ever see any video of Ram getting intoxicated with Sita Devi? But it's the demons who drink or take intoxication. And even now, of course, it's so prominent with the young people, this marijuana and stuff.
It is legal now, Maharaj.
Here?
It is legal here, yeah.
You take?
No, they're selling it outside. They're selling it outside and the kids can buy it.
Really? Don't you have to be over 21 or something?
Something age limit is there, but they can buy it.
It's legal
Yeah,
in California?
yes. They're now having on the freeway, they say that, what is it? buzzed, being buzzed is being drunk. Buzzed means that you take marijuana.
And it's interesting because I don't have experience with this, so I was asking one of my disciples who had some experience with it. I asked him, does it make you peaceful? And he said, after some time, prolonged use of it, it makes people paranoid. Because he was taking it before he joined the movement. He said it makes people paranoid. Because first I was thinking, well, maybe someone has some mental problems, maybe they should take it, for medicinal uses. And I said, does that work for someone? And he said, no, it'll make them even more paranoid and crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's a business, not a medical.
Well, I mean, certain medical situations, yes, if one has terminal cancer, I can understand. Terminal cancer and they have in pain, it's better that than taking morphine, probably. But in the case of, people taking it, actually people's span of attention gets lessened by taking it. They become paranoid. I've seen it. And they become less productive. Their determination becomes diminished. I mean, I've asked people who've taken it long term, who've given it up. Because we have a lot of people in the West who took it for years and years and years. I mean, I had one devotee I know who was selling it. Selling it. Before they joined the movement. And they had a lot of experience with it. They were taking it, maybe they took it 10,000 times before. And they're suffering now because of the brain damage that was caused by it. And I just wanted to find out what it does. You have to ask people. You don't just read the internet, because in the internet everybody has their own opinion. But you ask someone who's taken it for years, and you find out the real effect of it. So.
Yeah, but now it seems, everybody thinks that it should be allowed and all that.
Yeah, well, that's another issue. But I mean, you can't stop people. I mean, just like in the United States, they had this thing called prohibition in the 1920s. I don't know if you ever heard about that. Prohibition, they passed a law against alcohol. So instead of it stopping people from drinking, what happened? They developed their own stills. You know what a still is?
Underground, secret, places where you can drink.
Well, that's another thing. But they started making alcohol in their own homes. They turned their bathtubs, called bathtub, into a still. Into a still. And even when I joined the movement, the devotees used to sometimes ferment the nectar drink from the Sunday feast and drink it 3 or 4 days later. So, I mean, this prohibition didn't stop people from drinking alcohol. It didn't. Because sometimes when you tell people not to do something, it becomes more attractive. Isn't it? I mean, I always give the example with my mother. When I was young, my mother told me, don't go in this room of the house because our antique furniture is there. But as soon as she left, went anywhere shopping, I would go into the house and use the antique furniture as a trampoline. Because it became more attractive.
Did you break anything?
I think we did, but I said it wasn't me. Anyways, so when you tell people not to do something, it becomes more attractive. Plus, people have social pressure. The only way you can stop it, you can't stop it, but the only way you can deal with it is Krishna consciousness, or have people have a higher goal in life. Your goal is to be Krishna conscious, or even if your goal is to make money and be successful, you understand that these things don't work. They're not good strategies. So that's what I found. You can't, just like there was, what was it, Barbara Bush or something like that, one of the president's wives, who said this campaign, just say no. You heard about that? But it doesn't work. Because no means yes. When I say, Aniruddha, if you give him instruction, go to sleep, he won't go to sleep, he'll stay awake more. So when you actually give people instruction, you tell people not to do something, they just hear in their minds, do it. Do it. So therefore, I just try to help people understand, where's your goal in life? What do you want to do? we should have goals. I mean, of course, if someone doesn't have goals, they may be in the mode of ignorance. I have no goals. I just want to live from day to day and enjoy. Okay, go ahead. You have my blessings. But if someone has any sort of goal to be successful in anything, in sports, or in business, or in spiritual life, then they'll automatically see that these things are not helpful. Yeah, that's all. Because you won't be so determined like that. I mean, just look at the successful scientists, people in different fields, and they don't really take these things. I mean, many successful athletes are now vegetarians.
Yeah.
I was just reading a story about one athlete he's vegetarian when he's competing, but he's through the rest of the year he eats meat anyway. But in other words, that illustrates that if he has a goal, he's willing to sacrifice something and not do something. So the reason I don't take those things is because I want to please Krishna. I want to be Krishna conscious, and therefore it's a positive thing. It's not good to do things for negative reasons, because it doesn't enthuse you. It doesn't strike you in the heart, isn't it? When you do things for negative reasons. Why should I do this? Because if I don't do it, my mother will spank me. It's a horrible reason, isn't it? One should do things for their own reasons. Okay, so I think it's time for prasad yet? Okay, thank you all for joining us. We got a lot of people here. Champakalata, Radhamadava, Praneshwara, from India. We have people from India, Srinath, Koreshenko Olga. That sounds like from Russia. Asaya Ashvin, Raja Prem from Europe. Nitaya, Divya Nitaya, Leela. Wow, so many people. So, okay, let's finish.